Welcome to another episode of Blastland podcast, No Limits, Just Stories. Today I'm thrilled to talk with an outstanding man. He's not just an influencer of Airbus, he is a failure culture activist. He's a TEDx speaker, managing owner of Fuckup Nights, president of La Futura. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome Robert Radloff. Robert, welcome to Blastland podcast.
Awesome. What an introduction. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for the chance to speak to you and the rest of your audience, your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Robert, we are used to breaking the ice of our podcast at Blastland with some crazy question. And here it comes. Are you ready?
Here we go.
So, imagine this. You are captain of flight FCK001, destination innovation. Mid-flight, you hit severe turbulence and unexpected fuck-up, so to say. The cabin lights flicker, oxygen mask drop, engine failure. And now, here's your in-flight announcement, Captain Radloff. What do you say to calm the passengers?
I would say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert speaking from the flight deck. I have everything under control. You might see and appear difficulties or turbulences. Everything is in hands. There is no dedicated need to be afraid. We are the profis, we are the professionals, we know what we are doing, and otherwise, kiss your neighbor and we will see you on the ground.
That's a great announcement, Robert. That's really great. I immediately would calm down myself. I tell you. That's great. That's great to hear that, Robert. I loved what you write about yourself. Once upon a time, I was a kid, an athlete, soldier, freak, banker. Tell us a bit more about the time frame when you were a kid.
Um, okay, that's a quite interesting and a deep question. I was a kid. I was born in Eastern Germany. I was born next to the Baltic Ocean, a city called Rostock, and I was yeah, let me say addicted to the ocean every time in my life. So I was every single free minute I was at the ocean, in the ocean. So you remember maybe yourself in as a kid, you're always in the water with blue lips. So you are freezing as hell. Your parents told you to come out, but you don't. So you're always in the water. So this is what I remember first if I talk about my childhood. So growing up in Berlin, so my parents moved with me to a city called Potsdam next to Berlin, so capital of Germany, to our foreigners. And yeah, let me say the childhood of a kid was born in 79 was quite protected. So I was not in the deep trouble in terms of security or to be outside. So I played a lot outside. We had these kind of garden. We played in a garden. We had a lake next to us. Potsdam is quite beautiful in terms of nature. So you have a lot of lakes and rivers. Um, so I was quite protected. So my childhood was really protected and close to nature, I would say. Yeah,
That's
with
that's good to.
with some heroes in my life, huh? So in terms of sport, former long jump Olympic and world record holder Heike Drechsler, for example, is Eastern German, and I remember that let me say, I was selected to be part of the so-called sports, dedicated sports school, so Kinder- und Jugendsportschule. I was able to be there and participate of the good things in the former GDR, to be honest. So, and I was 11. I was 12 as the wall came down. So believe me, everything in terms of prejudice in Eastern Germany, I was not involved in politics. I was not involved in society. I was the one who was enjoying the positive sides of the former GDR.
That's
Does this
very
answer your
interesting.
question?
It does, absolutely. Robert, you mentioned some word about inspiration. I would
Hmm.
ask you the following question. Who, when, and how, and what inspired you in your life, and how do you continue with this inspiration? Where do you get it from?
That's nice. Good question. Inspiration. Recently I had a discussion with a friend of mine and said, okay, where does inspiration come from and what does other people give me? So this is the, let me say, contradiction in that question. I think it's other people's, other perspectives, diversity, other bubbles. So I always talk about bubbles. So I see myself in the corporate world as a kind of strategist, as a senior manager within a corporate. And I see myself as an entrepreneur and entrepreneur in terms of Fuckup Nights here in Hamburg. I see myself as a kind of founder of an association. So you see already different bubbles. I see myself as a kind of a spare time hippie as well. So I have friends who are living in communities and dancing naked around fireplaces. So being open-minded and seeing other people and other opinions as a kind of inspiration is enormous important for me. So to change perspectives. So inspiration are from different perspectives, I think. Different people, conversations on eye level, radical listenings, things like this are very important for me.
That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. Robert, you are a pioneer in terms of changing the approach and attitude towards the culture of failure and so-called fuck-ups in the worst case scenario. We're going to talk about that a bit later. But before, I would like to ask you a very generic and creative question. If a failure or a fuck-up would have a face in terms of an object or subject of the nature or some picture, what would it look like?
That's an outstanding good question. I once part of my keynotes I give to people in terms of failure culture, cultural change, psychological safety is the definition of failure. How does failure look like? And a good exercise in terms of make it visual is to use AI, the picture creation tool of AI, and describe how failure looks for you. So to everybody who's listening, do it yourself. Create a picture with your description. There is no need to be complete sentences. There's no need to have dedicated right grammar. Just note down whatever it comes into your mind in terms of success, even in life, or the concept of failure. And to answer your question, it is dark. It is a tree in the middle of the picture, and it's very depressive. So you see how to describe that. I saw people who are depressed, who are having their heads down. I saw money burning, and I saw the definition of failure in terms of a person who made suicide. And so really dark, really depressive picture, light and dark gray, not really colorful. So that was quite dedicated a picture out of my description, verbal description of how failure feels and looks like for me.
That sounds awesome. You know what I did while you were telling it? I just copy pasted the prepared visualization and asked ChatGPT to do that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can share it. I will try to. Let's see. I think yes. Look what ChatGPT offers on that.
Yeah,
That's, that's error 04 success not found in a heavily distressed office building. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Nevertheless, Robert, is there in this dark picture with the tree and the dark colors, is there
Mhm.
some part of this picture where you can see a bit of sunlight or not really?
in this dedicated picture, I think there was a mountain in the back of that picture where you climb up that mountain and you see a kind of spark, a kind of light over there. I think this is the translation of there is always hope in fail. There's always hope in fear. There's always hope in, let me say, dark moments of life. So if you're in the regret moment, if you're in the grief period of your whatever fail, whatever career step, and there is always be a possibility or a chance, an idea of how to go ahead and how could you, let me say, come back to the path of enlightening. So
That's
yes,
interesting.
there was a hill, and if you climb the hill, so I think it's a metaphor. If you climb the hill, there is light.
That's great. That's great. Robert, when talking about failures and fuck ups, is there a difference between a fuck up and a failure?
I think it's just in terms of when and where do you use the word. So there's a fun story behind that. I was brave and stupid enough to bring the dedicated trademark of Fuck Up Nights to a corporate company, and I received a lot, believe me, a lot of complaints in terms of using that dedicated word. So for everybody, if you're not mother tongue in English or American English, fuck up sounds like a sexualized word, but it isn't. It is like the German verkacken. So it is something that is using rude words, rude pronunciations to describe something that is even the same as failure. It could even be more positive if you're using positive language and changing minds. It could be a learning opportunity. So, but to be honest, it sounds boring, doesn't it? So that's why a fuck up is there is no dedicated difference between a failure and a fuck up. I think the fuck up could be the moment you realizing you made a failure. So that could be at least a little bit the difference in terms of situation.
Understood. Robert, to me, it's really, really funny to see because you said you were brave and crazy enough to bring it in this formulation.
Stupid was it
What
was it what I said?
Oh, stupid, even stupid. Okay, okay, but anyway, it went through. Even I mean, you are working both in a corporate, super mega regulated
Hmm.
world at Airbus. At the same time, you're doing all these really cool things, and there were many complaints. You said, but how did the people actually react? So when they first saw it, they said, "Hey, are you crazy? It's non-compliant." But how did you get through with that?
To be honest, I think that the most important point is context. So you have to explain why and what you're doing. So, and to tell the story right, I was I was in a situation to care about repetitive failures, repetitive things that gone wrong, to maybe increase the quality of the process or to set new milestones. And I thought, okay, maybe it's smart to overthink why we are doing the same mistakes again and again. And I came to the concept of failure culture and fuck up nights, and I said, okay, why not? To shake the organization, to shake a company with an event and explaining what is the context of the event, what is the content, and what is the context of the event. So if you're starting with psychology, if you're starting to explaining why you are doing it, so no, this is not a party. We are not drinking beer only and laughing about stories. No, it is about learning, and it is about, and here it is tremendously important to recognize that we are not doing fuck up nights, that we are not doing um, initiatives around failure culture to just have a well-being initiative. There is an economic reason behind. Quite easy. If you're learning out of a mistake, you don't have to make the mistake again, and the cost of making a mistake is not appearing again. So it is a business balance decision to not do a mistake, and what could help you to not do a mistake, to talk about it. So that's why I think the context is important. And I think as soon as you explain what you do, I came through with having a fuck up nights and receiving 52 compliance cases against me in a corporate uh, like Airbus. So, and in the
Well,
end of the day, I had to have somebody who is covering my back. So somebody was in a higher hierarchy, even more higher hierarchy, available and said, okay, please, this is the initiative around failure, and there is a concept behind this is culture change. I'll leave it like this. And if you understand language, okay, this is Fuckup Nights, this is a trademark, and so on and so forth. So in the end, you need stakeholders or somebody who is on your side, let me say.
That sounds well. That's really an interesting story you have because in my experience, I've been also for many years in the corporate world, and
Mm.
one thing is if you are like on your own feet and you are doing some events for yourself and you make such fuck up nights and you tell you spread this culture. The other thing
Mhm.
is if you are working for a corporate, and what I came to a conclusion is that most of the corporates, especially in the GSA, the German, Switzerland, Austrian triangle, they're kind of still in the bubble and it's not so popular. It's very defendant. It's very dangerous to be open, to be super transparent, to talk about
Mm.
errors, failures, fuck ups. How do you see it in this in the German speaking countries, especially? Because I have a feeling they're like really tight compared
Yeah.
to the American culture or even to some other countries.
Yeah, so if you're jumping into culture and prejudices about culture, German culture or German speaking culture is more on the quality and on the, let me say, we are doing things right. This is what we are outstanding for thinking. So the idea of themselves or of German culture is producing quality. So everybody knows from our past in terms of automobile industry, in terms of our engineers, in terms of whatever Germany or German speaking country standing for Rolex or whatever, it is quality. And quality is a kind of contradiction to failure. So that's why I see and feel why German speaking people identifying themselves by quality instead of learning out of failures. But believe me, if you're zooming out a little bit more and you see, you already talked about American culture, Southern American culture is even more relaxed on failures. So all the Latin countries are more into learning, more into cultural, let me say, collaboration and interaction. And on the other hand, on the other, let me say, end of the extremes, you have Asia. So we have a huge dependence in India, for example. We are working a lot with Indian people, and India is a different shit. Believe me, if you start talking about failures and losing phase in India or the whole Asia, it is a kind of different story. So this is tremendously different than starting these kind of initiatives in Germany. And this is one of the biggest challenges I have in my job within the company, starting talking about learning out of failures in a different way as you're doing it in, for example, America or in Germany.
Makes sense. Makes sense. When talking about introducing the culture or changing the culture
Hmm.
towards the failures, who should it come from? Should it be the Vorstand, the leadership, the top management who is like kind of dropping it down towards the people? Should it be bottom up? From the people, what mechanisms do you have when talking about other corporations, how to initiate this story?
Yeah, yeah. I, I'm the biggest fan of both. So a hybrid version of how to cooperate or how to cooperate failure culture or even every culture change in a company or in an association or whatever bigger company. So you for sure you have the top management, the C-level management who have to stand behind that idea. Nothing is more disturbing than just people who are not only accepting but just saying, okay, this is an initiative, we have to do it. This is like the free coffee in the office. We accept it, but we are not behind that idea. And on the other hand, you have to have people who are engaged, who have the power, the willingness, the ideas, the creativity to to create something, to create a community, to create events, to create even tools to do so. Huh? So even if you're talking about cultural change in terms of failure culture, we created a kind of toolbox, a shoe box, called a workshop in the box, where you could use in smaller, bigger teams and creating the atmosphere of being safe. And you have to have the top management, the C-level management of a company who's behind that idea. So the initial idea from us was for me was to have stakeholders even on stage. So if you bring the CTO on stage who shares his own failure, it is a kind of aha moment for everybody else. It is like, okay, she's sharing, so it is okay for everybody else to share. So this is the kind of I call it the hybrid idea.
It's a great approach. It's a great approach, Robert. Let's do a bit of sashimi with the fuck ups and the failures. And I'll start with the first cut. If you permit me so, to ask you, Robert, directly, what was your biggest fuck up in your life?
Okay, there are plenty ones. Believe me. So maybe I will talk about one of the most interesting for people around is maybe I started the idea, the ironic idea of being a, a startup founder and creating an app that you could use in changing rooms to rate your style. The name of the app was This Suits You, so TSY. And the initial idea was that you are not sure about, is this shirt, this trousers, this dress suiting me? So should I buy it or should I don't? So making a picture, and immediately within seconds you have the opportunity for your friends answering, or a professional style consultant is answering whatever you pay to 2 euros or whatever, and somebody is telling you, maybe stripes are not the right fit for you, maybe you choose another one. So in-app sales, in-app merchandising. So that was the initial idea. And the biggest fuck up was that I was too arrogant. I was too much in love to see that the idea was maybe great, but you have to have money to code right. So I was the one who was coding. I was the one who spends 200 euros for a coder, and asked it by eBay. So the initial idea of a coder in a garage was the romantic vision. No, you don't pay 200 euros for something that is worth a million. So and to impress somebody else, I was doing it with a friend together, and to be honest here, clear and transparent. I was falling in love with her, and so the business idea was out of arrogance and love, and this is always not the right motivation. So that's why in the end of the day we spent, I think it was only 5,000 euros and a lot of time and a lot of emotion and energy, and the idea was stolen by somebody else, and the app is currently running. So one of the biggest ones in terms of emotions and energy was this one. There are plenty of fuck ups. Believe me, I shared a lot of them during my speeches or invitations I had. Yeah.
That's nice. Nice to hear. Really, really interesting. Let's make the second sashimi cut and talk more about. I know you've been telling it quite a lot, and also many of your speeches, also in
hmm
TEDx and other platforms. Nevertheless, also for our listeners, because we have quite a big, broad platform of young people listening. How do you deal as a person? So you said this moment of the fuck up. Oh my God, it happened.
hmm
How do you deal in the first 5 minutes? How do you deal in the coming days? And how do you overwhelm yourself and then you say, okay, got it, next, and I have to learn out of it? How do you
Yeah.
deal with the fuck up?
How to deal with a fuck up? I think there is not the one answer to everybody that suits to everybody. I think What I would coach everybody into would be, okay, what helps you in these kind of situations? Is it that you need a drink? Why not? So just take a schnapps and take a deep breath. Or is it that you talk to somebody in the very first 5 minutes? Is it that you have to to let it out? Even if somebody else is not able to listening to you, if it's just your need, your motivation to let it out, okay, talk to somebody. Um, so first and initial thing is, okay, reflect on yourself what you need. I think this is important. And then even this it depends on the, let me say, on the dramatic of the failure itself, on the consequences of the failure itself. If somebody would put you in jail, maybe you don't talk about it. Um, if it is that somebody else would die if you don't take the right countermeasures right now, please do the right countermeasures now before you are falling into the grief period. So I think it is reflection. The answer, concrete answer to your question is reflection. And then I think, and this is my opinion, talking to whom in which circle always helps. Depends on your preferences in life, to whom you talk. Is it your therapist? Is it your mom? Is it a friend? Is it a special coach or something? I think talking helps. And to be honest, at a certain point, you have to talk about, or you have to think about consequences. What are the consequences out of that failure? What do I have to do in terms of learning out of it and doing it right? So do you have to have countermeasures? Do you have to correct something? Is there anything that you have to do that nobody else is having a bad consequence out of it? So I think this is important. So reflecting, talking, and countermeasures.
That's a good recipe. That's a good recipe. Robert, can failure be the ultimate innovation engine? Can you give an example where something went terribly wrong but gave birth to something even better?
I think there's so many examples on how a failure turns into something positive. If you look in history, so the invention of all the medicine, the invention of the light bulb, everything is out of people who are failing a lot. A dedicated one, I think the dedicated one is the invention of explosives. So I think there's the invention of, I think it was TNT or something that was invented by, I don't know the person's name, but the intention was different. And I think TNT helps a lot in terms of construction work in the former times. Um, and if you're looking more into current times, failures are, let me say, a quote is, I don't fail, I just found 100 ways how it doesn't work. So, and here, most important is where you see yourself in the process. So inventions, innovations are always right in the beginning of a product life cycle, of a life cycle of something. So it is extremely okay, it is extremely needed to fail, to invent the thing you want to bring later in the process of the product. So if you want to go into production, if you're going to bring the product into market, if you want to sell the product, if you have to after sales, even more far you go in the process, the more hard consequences are out of failures. So that's why it is important to do the failures as early as possible. So there is the agile quote coming from fail fast and cheap. Fail in the very beginning of inventions, of innovation, before you are spending a hell lot of money, trusts, or a reputation later if you are producing a failing product and bring it to the market. So that's why, yeah, be aware of the position in the process where you are, and this is where you could see the consequences of failures are positive or negative.
That's really great advice. Robert, what are the red flags that show an exempless company or corporation that is faking good failure culture just for PR reasons? What would the red flags be for you?
The red flags be for me, I don't want to limit it on corporates. I see a lot of speakers who are wanting to be on stages and share their failures. And as soon as you're talking about and as soon as you're preparing these kind of speeches, that could be in a corporate or could be outside of the corporate in public in so-called public events. As soon as you recognize that people are just on stage to show themselves, to be on stage, to be extroverted, to share their experience, to turn a failure story into a success story and share their details in terms of communication. So these are my customers and these are my phone numbers. Please contact me here and there. So using these kind of stages for self-reputation, this is what I see really often. And in terms of what you asked me in terms of where is a company using the culture change as a kind of fake to just show startup mentality but don't mean it. I think it's not that obvious. I think there are no red flags. So red flags could be if you're deep diving into it and see, okay, are there consequences out of failing? So for us to be quite transparent with you, we had penalties for our suppliers, for our subcontractors, as soon as they are making mistakes. And for sure, people will start arguing. For sure, people will start hiding as soon as it comes to money. So my advice or my idea is look into a system and see the systematic approach of how to deal with failures. Is there anything that is punishing people who are sharing failures? A structural disadvantage for people who are sharing failures. Could be the simple aspect of employee of the month. How do you rate an employee of the month? Is it just sales money? Is it how many hours on the desk? Is it how many sickness days? Or what is the measurement behind success? So I think this is a good advice. Deep dive into the structure and into the process and the key performance indicators, so the indicators for success or the indicators for failure.
That's great, Robert. Because in connection to this previous question, I have seen many times in various corporations, bigger or smaller, the most beautiful posters, the placate hanging everywhere at every door, the entrance, like our values. And I always, sometimes even, I found the word failure is like a key to success. But then
Hmm.
when you deep dive into the corporate culture, you find out that people are penalized for that, that there's no openness, there is no dealing with that. It's just a
Hmm.
poster hanging on every door. So this
Hmm.
this was my interest to ask you
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
question. Robert, before we proceed to a very important topic, which I'm particularly interested in, about the culture and culture of failure for children,
Hmm.
I would like to ask you another crazy question. What do you think? Wouldn't it be great to introduce in Germany or in Switzerland or in the whole European Union the National Day of Fuck Up on a federal level?
Sounds fantastic. So a great idea. Let me think about it. So first impression and gut feeling was, okay, we have something similar with the 1st of April, so April Fool's Day. So maybe in contradiction to April Fool's Day, we have something it's called a fuck up day. So do you have a contact to somebody who is inventing bank holidays in German speaking countries? Is there something where I could apply to or we?
I think for, at least for Switzerland, I can tell you we have to raise a referendum for this and gather 100,000 signatures. And if everyone feels like he is okay with that, then it's going to be the 2nd of April or whatever day we choose. Well, for my person in Germany, I don't have such contacts, but I think we can. I mean, we're speaking about it now, and if somebody hears it from the government, maybe they find it also cool. But I find it really cool. You have one day where all the people gather, they celebrate it in a good way,
Hmm.
talk to each other, and just have a free spare day.
Yeah,
So.
that's a nice one. And you're bringing the topic one at least once a year on the table. So there is a today I'm eating Nutella day. So why not to have a dedicated day in the year for sharing openly and transparent in a safe space your failures. It's a great idea. I
Exactly.
will I will I will take care and let me see if I could arrange something about that. Yeah, awesome idea. Love it.
Sounds cool. Sounds cool. Robert, we spoke prior a bit, and I know that you are involved in some interesting initiatives, talking and cultivating the culture of failure already for the small ones, for the younger generation, for the children. Can you tell us a bit more? What is the first maybe sub question is what is the perception on the level of children beginning from the early years and the kindergarten up to high school, whatever, and what's going to be next? What are your visions on that?
Hmm. I think first, thank you for that question. That is a for me a quite important one. I think first and important is to understand that atychiphobia, that's the term of the fear of failing, the fear of not being enough, is the number one reason why kids and teenagers thinking about suicide. And this is heavy. To be honest, if this is something regular and this is the truth, we have to take care about it. So my idea or my experience is that everybody is talking about education for grown-ups. Everybody is talking about education trainings in work environments. So everybody is talking about trainings in a corporate, or everybody is talking about soft skill trainings. So why not to even start earlier with these kind of awareness? Um, and that's why we founded that non-profit association here in Hamburg. It's called Fun Hamburg e.V. So it's a non-profit organization here in Hamburg, and we are trying to influence our education system. So everybody tries to influence our education system. We all know that our education system is more than 100 years old, and nothing changed since then. We are trying to influence more on a dedicated level in terms of how to create a psychologically safe room in classrooms or kindergartens where the differences in terms of failing or success are clear. I know it's difficult due to the fact that our system, our environment, our um, even everything around sport is more on success and leveling and indicators and comparison of people next to each other. So I, I know it's difficult, and I know that the marks in school are based on the same level of rating people and knowledge. I know it's difficult, but you have to understand, you have to see the system behind what happens to our kids, what happens to our young generation who will be the future leaders of our society. We have to be honest to ourselves. What we are doing with our kids now is influencing our life in 20 to 30 years. So, and if we educate kids in terms of you have to measure yourself against others, you have to be the first one, you have to have a grade, a Mark 1, and you need that to be outstanding, or you need that to be different from other persons, you need that to be better. So there will be always a black side of this as well. The shadow side of this is that you don't have the Mark 1. Maybe you have the Mark 4 or 5 in school. Maybe you are not the fastest one on track. Maybe you are not the one who is the most prettiest. And these kind of people, these kind of kids, these kind of teenagers are more on the black side. Do you remember the picture? They are suffering from the dark picture with the tree in the middle. They are suffering from depressions. They are suffering from being outsiders. So the idea of leveling have to be um, rethinked, I think, and that's why I'm starting from different angles, two angles. So first angle is how to bring this into our education system for our teachers and kindergartners. So what we need to engage our teachers and kindergartners to create a psychological safe room and space. And on the other hand, different direction is how could we bring psychological safety and the negative consequences of artichophobia into our education system. So maybe in terms of psychology, we have even for kindergartners or even for our preliminary school and a part of education next to math and next to sport, next to whatever German handwriting. We have something. It is psychology, and part of that is the consequences out of that. So this is the idea. Two angles, and we are now starting here and now. So currently we have the 21st of March 25. In 1 week, exactly in 1 week, I will be in Delmenhorst. This is next to Bremen here, Hamburg, Bremen, northern part of Germany, sitting together with directors and teachers of a gymnasium, kindergartners, psychologists, public speakers, sitting together, creating a kind of white paper that we are able to hand over to our Ministry of Education. So this is what we are doing, as I said, in a way of non-profit organization. Does this answer your question? This was much, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, and it was absolutely not much. It's indeed a very, very interesting topic. I'm also interested in, when talking about kids. Well, they are nowadays, what I'm observing, they're exposed to multiple waves and trends and angles,
Hmm.
beginning with the social media, mobbing, all these bad, bad things that are happening at this age
Hmm.
is, and I guess that some sort, apart from or even hybrid with the failure culture cultivation, is of course the awareness towards such topics as fraud, for
Hmm.
example. I mean, look at what is happening with the older guys, or even the like 20 years, 30 years. They're coming into these attrappen and getting always some problems with money, with being
Hmm.
fraudulized or so. And I think all these things we have to care about at the stage when the children are young and to prepare them for this. But I think without a proper support from the government, from the local, from the federal government, it's
Hmm.
very, very hard to achieve, because the teachers, they also have a full agenda. They kind of, I wouldn't say they don't care, but they have just to teach geography and so on.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
how to find this safe room, how to plan the programs in that way that you can embed the failure culture lessons for the small ones and so on. This is
yeah.
something I'm really also puzzling to
Yeah,
figure
what
out.
what you describe here is exactly what I see as the results out of a, let me say, not safe space. Um, so mobbing and all these threats and sufferings are indicators or consequences out of not belonging. So I think that the hashtag belonging could be or will be the most important in our society in future, if it's not today, yeah. So, and how do you feel that you belong to something or somebody or a group, that you are part of it, that you are not a failure, that you are not um, lower measure, that you are not fulfilling the KPI. So you are part of it, and that's why don't get mobbed. So that's why you experience how love feel. So you could grow out of your gray zone, let me say. So yeah, uh, I see mobbing as a kind of consequence out of not belonging, out of not a safe space. And to be honest, we in the association care more about psychological safety instead of failure culture. I think failure culture is just a part of psychological safety. As soon as it comes to diversity, or as soon as it comes to differences, different opinions, different point of views, you have to feel safe to even share your different opinions. And this is what we are trying to strive for.
Very interesting. No, this is a really big topic, very deep dive topic that requires
Yeah,
a lot of effort still, and we can see it. We can see it at
definitely.
schools, at kindergartens. Robert, back to the failures. Is there a secret failure, what you have never disclosed before, but you are especially proud of?
I think it's a two-sided question. First question is that I'm proud of, and second one is that I not shared before. Um, Even without thinking, I don't think so, because I'm a really extrovert person. As soon as I'm proud of something, I would share it. That's the first thing. And second thing is that I already prepared at least 25 keynotes in terms of failure culture. And I think so. My idea of delivering a keynote is that I do something different every day, due to the fact that otherwise it becomes boring. Or if you're repeating the same story again and again, it doesn't matter anymore as soon as you're sharing the same thing. So that's why now, even with thinking while talking bullshit, now I don't see uh, a story that is worth to share, or where I'm proud of and I didn't share before. No, I'm really extroverted. If you're googling my name, you will find a lot of stories. Yeah,
Definitely, definitely. You have on your LinkedIn banner. I found it really cool. You have this beautiful circle, and then you have on the left side the A, then a very fat line in between, and then a B.
yeah.
Can you work out a bit on this? It looks really pretty.
Um, Here, it's a nice feedback due to the fact that it's not a circle, it's a brain. And
Uh-huh.
the connection between A and B is a neural network. So it symbolized the neural network. And what I'm trying to say is that our neural networks, so the smarter thing and our advantage in biology, exactly. So this is a brain from the top. Um, so if you know the way a neural network is working, it is a big advantage in biology. So the idea behind is that you once learn something, and you don't have to think about it anymore as soon as you're catching a ball, or you're closing your shoes, or you're peeling off an orange or something. You don't think about it anymore because you know it, you learned it. This is a big advantage. On the other hand, it's a big disadvantage because you already learned how it feels to fail. What could be the negative consequences if you tell somebody that you fail? So the shame, or the pain, so even physical pain, if you're touching the oven, if you're falling, so negative consequences out of failing are neural network as well, and you have to overcome that neural networks to be able to learn out of it and to do things to to restart your experience, your journey, your learning path, or whatever. I don't want to say that you recently have to touch again the oven. No, uh, in terms of work life, so negative consequences that you learned or even brought into your neural network could be, as soon as I'm sharing, my boss will punish me and my career is over. So please overcome these kind of biases and neural networks. So that's the idea behind that brain, uh, with the A and B connection.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting, Robert. In connection with the first idea on the National Celebration Day of Fuckups, I have another idea which came to my mind. Why not opening a Fuckup Museum? somewhere in Berlin or in Zurich or somebody, and displaying some interesting pictures about fuck ups or some sculptures. What do you think?
Even that is a nice idea. I think it's like always and like everywhere, you have to find a sponsor. So if somebody with a hell lot of money and don't know where to spend it, here we are. It is Blastland and Fuckup Nights Hamburg who would courage the exhibition hall of the fuck ups. So bringing pictures together of exploding rockets or burning money or picture of politicians or whatever, so that we see and feel big fuck ups. Yeah, great
Yeah,
idea.
that's
So as soon as we have the money, my friend, we will do it. I
agreed.
mean,
Agreed. Agreed. Robert, uh, as so many young people listen to us, will listen to our session, today's session,
mhm.
which is absolutely great. I'm really so happy having you today. What would be the three or four, up to you, key messages to the young people from nowadays, looking into the future? Just the three or four, whatever you want. What would you say to the
Wow,
young people?
that's a big one. That's a big one. I think what we had earlier today is be self-aware. I think the most important thing is that nobody, even not the tattooed guy in the podcast, will tell you how life is working and how you would work. So everything is individual, and don't listen to stupid people in the world who would try to tell you what to do. Listen to yourself. And there are so many tools in the world that supports you to understand who you are, what are your motivation, what is your intrinsic motivation in life, what could be your driver, what could be your profession. So reflect on yourself, take your time, take the tools that are available. For example, the IDGs. Make the self-awareness about the IDGs. So the inner development goals is United Nations in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. Talk about yourself. Um, Another tool that I could give our younger generation is using a method called 16 personalities. 16 personalities is nothing less than a Myers-Briggs type indicator. So you're answering 110 questions on yourself, and you understand yourself even better. So, and why not to go ahead, go further, use human design? Why not to create your human design chart, and see what is behind your thoughts, your ideas, your emotions to create your better self. So I think this first thing is reflect on yourself and learn about yourself. Second thing is be curious, be open-minded. As I shared before, use other bubbles actively. Choose to be part of other bubbles as your own. So if you're grown up in a rich country, why not to have the opportunity or go to a poor country and talk to people there? If you're grown up in a in a city, why not to live for half a year in the village? If you just have a homogene group of people around you, actively decide to get inspiration from others. So this, I think, this is tip number two. Tip number three is be bold and try new things. I understand and see that fear could be a blockage. And here again, be smart, think about the negative consequences. What are really the negative consequences? Nobody will kill you. Nobody will put you in jail as soon as you're talking about your own sexuality. Okay, there are differences in terms of where you are, and for sure you have to be sensitive with that topic in terms of politics, in terms of culture, in terms of religion. But in our privileged society here in the German-speaking area, it is completely fine to talk about it. Be bold and think about the negative consequences and how realistic are negative consequences, or is it just your fear? And how certain is the negative consequence? Huh? So these are three. I think that these are even big enough. Uh, so reflect, find yourself, and be bold.
Reflect, find yourself, and be bold. Robert, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, also in the name of the Blastland community, for your wonderful time and super, super creative talk we had today. I loved it very much.
Awesome.
And I'm sure, and I really am thrilled to be talking to you another time and another time and another time. I think we have a lot of things to discuss yet.
Yeah.
And
We
uh,
already have actions, my friend. We already have projects like the museum, huh?
museum is a good thing, and we can do it even online. I was thinking like we can do
Yeah, why
the
not?
it, the International AI Fuckup Museum.
Yeah,
So you
why
can do
not?
it with AI.
Yeah, why
Oh,
not? So there is a dedicated, let me say, web page. It's called the Failure Institute from the founders of Fuck Up Nights in Mexico. And why not to even put all the shared stories into a prompt and build a picture out of it and share these kind of pictures. So I see opportunities.
let's give it a try. I'm always saying, just do it and never regret. That's the thing. Robert, thank you so much. I wish you a fancy time at the ocean. I'm not
Thank
sure
you so
you're gonna
much.
be surfing today, or
I'm not quite sure, so I have the boards with me. I'm here with the camper van. I have the boards with me. I'm not quite sure if there will be waves at the Baltic Ocean or the North Sea these weekends. I'm not sure.
anyway, have fun. Robert, thank
I
you so
will.
much, and until next time.
We see it. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.